Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, dear honorable keynote speaker, guest of honor, audience participants, and program viewers from our Facebook page. Welcome to today's exclusive webinar. I am MD Monirul Islam, Librarian of Army Medical College, Chattogram. It's my great pleasure to host today's most demandable webinar. Dear participants, due to enormous demands from the audience, BRBD is continuing research guidelines for webinar series for the research devotees. This time, BRBD brings to you an exclusive webinar on mechanics of writing high-impact research article. Today's presentation will cover how to start effective research journey, how to express or present personal research ideas, how to make audience understand scientifically to that level what you understand, how to review high-impact journals or manuscripts, how to find out high-impact journals, and how you can attract each of the content of scholarly articles. Dear audience, you know that BRBD is an online-based non-profit open platform directed by some world-class scholars. It is continuously working to promote research activities and provide guidelines to young researchers in Bangladesh. Its vision is to leverage research functions in higher educational institutions for ensuring sustainable development all over the world. This platform regularly organizes online or offline training courses, webinars, seminars, live discussion, or meetings, etc., to assist young researchers. Dear participants, we have two guests of honor. We have two resource persons in this today's program. Mr. MD Sabir Hossain, who is the initiator and lead visionary of this BRBD platform, who is Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, CUET, Bangladesh, recently has been selected as an editor of Sigma Journal of Engineering and Natural Science, Turkey, and he is acting as national mentor of Unibator program. Today, Mr. 𝗘𝘃𝗲𝗏 PhD, who will be present as keynote speaker. And initially, I introduce you Mr. MD Sabir Hossain, who is the initiator and lead visionary of BRBD, and I am requesting him to say something about today's webinar. Mr. MD Sabir Hossain, sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you hear me?
Walaikum salam. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mr. Monirul Islam, for a nice introduction. It's my pleasure to be a host, to be a guest of honor at such important webinar on high-impact paper writing by a prominent researcher, Fijul Kabir from USA. We know that we are living in a knowledge-based society, and creation of new knowledge is the foundation. Without research and innovation, knowledge-based society will not be sustainable. Quality research and publication is one of the most important way to contribute to the knowledge society. Quality research are done by different researchers from all over the world. However, many of them cannot publish in a good quality journals. As a result, people are deprived from their innovation. The main reason that people cannot publish their research in good quality journals are many. One of them are presenting their articles in a standard way. So we are organizing this webinar to show how you can represent your research to be accepted in a high quality journals. I am really thankful to Fijul Kabir for managing time for this very busy schedule. I hope people who are research enthusiasts will get a great guidance from this webinar. I am also thankful for all people concerned with BRBD. Thanks a lot, Monirul Islam, for giving me an opportunity.
Thank you, sir, for your nice presentation, nice talk. Now, I am going to introduce you our keynote speaker. Today's keynote speaker, SM Fijul Kabir. He is experienced in fibers, polymers, textiles, and composites. He finished his PhD in fiber and polymer science in 2021 from NC State University, USA. Masters in textile with concentration in textile science and minor in applied statistics in 2018 from Louisiana State University, USA. He has completed his BS in textile engineering from University of Chittagong, Bangladesh in 2013. Currently, he is working as a postdoctoral research associate at the Department of Plastic Engineering, University of Massachusetts, USA. Dear audience, his research areas include sustainable textile processing, fiber reinforced composites, 3D printing, clothing comfort, and protective clothing. He has published more than 28 articles in different peer-reviewed journals and presented in more than 14 national and international conferences and seminars. He is serving as a topical editor and guest editor in Textiles, a journal of MDPI publisher, and reviewer of different journals from ACS, Elsevier, Springer, Says, Wiley, and MDPI publishers. Dear audience, now I am requesting our keynote speaker to present his presentation on mechanics of writing scholarly high impact research article. Our keynote speaker, Dr. SM Fijul Kabir.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your great opportunity for this great opportunity and inviting me in this great platform. Firstly, I would like to share some prologues, that will help us to understand what is the contents and what I'll be talking about. The very first thing I must make it clear to my audience, which is today's presentation is completely focused on writing rather than research ideas. And talking about the research ideas, design of experiment, and how we can put research ideas, and out of that research idea, how we can do the research and finally get publication out of that research. There's a whole different big discussion. So I would like to drilling it clearly. That is, in today's presentation, we'll be only talking about how you can write each of the contents of a research article, addressing the key points of each of these points. Addressing the key points. Can you make the background knowledge out, please? Yes. Thank you. So, whomever of us do not need to use microphone, I would highly request to mute the microphone, please. Okay. So the plan of today's research is to this presentation basically includes the different contents and how we can craft the different contents of a research article so that it becomes attractive to the high impact research, high impact journals. From my own experience, I have come to know different articles, different manuscripts that are based on the novel ideas. However, due to the improper presentation, I found them to be rejected from the high impact journals. Basically, they are failing to attract to the high impact journals due to poor writing or presentation. Recently, in my recent review from one of the journals from ACS, Journal of Sustainable Chemistry and Engineering, I had a chance to go through paper. Basically, I was invited as a reviewer, and while I was going through the paper, I can see there's since it's a this is a single blind peer review, so I can see who are the authors. So the authors are from the very high prestigious school. However, the research idea is good, but the way they have presented, I could not appreciate. So these are the reasons why. So I ended up with a major revision or resubmission. So this is one of my personal experience that happened in last week. So I have also seen there is many of the articles that are based on the normal concepts. However, they are being attracted by the high impact journals uh, because of their scholastic writing ability. So writing is basically an art, and we need to be very careful when it comes to the scholarly writing. That's the academic writing. So in our today's discussion, I'll be talking about how you can craft each of the contents of a research article so that you can attract high impact journals through your writing skill. So all we know, regardless the type of the research. By the way, another prologue is this. I rather will be discussing more a lot. This I know the slides of this presentation is very wordy. However, I wanted to keep it wordy for my audience to understand, and so that they can make a note, because I'll be talking probably each of this content a lot. So it might be misleading for the audience to get the track. So that's why I put so many words at the note so that the audience do not have to do not have to be that much concerned in making the notes. Notes are here already. Okay, so we know the different concepts of a research article. That's kind of very established fact. So I would like to start. The front matters. The front matters are the title, abstract, and the keywords. Although this looks like these contents appears as a first of a research article, but truly speaking, these things are written at the last of the after drafting the whole article, because it depends on the how the research has been conducted, how you have analyzed the data, and how you have presented, and what you have included in your whole research. So that's why abstract titles often comes later. Although we might have to start with the initial title, but that will be kind of that might go through several times or couple of times of revision. Okay, so title should be basically the concise, attractive, and informative. Attractive is not functional, rather than it's an aesthetic purpose of the title, so that it becomes it catches your eyes. So that's the attractive purpose. But the main thing is the informative and concise. The informative and concise means, as I mentioned, that is whenever someone wants to find a specific article on a certain aspect, so they can easily find you a research article. Sometimes we use some metaphorical title, or sometimes we use a very different title rather than the mainstream. It's not a I just wanted to make sure it's not a kind of a drama or a movie that is you can use some metaphorical title. Rather than I would recommend to be on stick to the subject matter of the research. So that's why the title has to be informative, which is kind of must for the title, because it's a research. It's not like other writing. You are not writing a novel, you are not writing or poetry, not like that. It's a research, so the title should include the major keywords of your research. Otherwise, people who need this particular research, they might fail to find your research. So if your research does not serve the purpose of your desired audience, then it might not be fruitful. So that's why your title should include the major keywords of your research, and it has to be concise. Sometimes I have found many many titles. In the first draft, the titles of the first draft title looks like a sentence, while we do not we probably would like to mention that is a sentence is a poor structure as a title. So rather than, you should focus on using different types of phrase or clause, but not not as a full sentence. abstract. So abstract is the gist of your, so first, when title, we like the title, kind of, let's say I am searching literature for particular research. So the field that I am working, I will be using few keywords to find a desired research article. So I have been able to struct the keywords that I'll be using to find the article. Okay, I put that in the Google Scholar system or different search engine system. And if the title catches me, then I probably might be interested to go through the abstract. So in abstract, I'll expect to see at least three things which are must. Three things means what is the purpose of the research, that is what have been done, and how you achieved the purpose, that is the methodology. So what are the tools and techniques that you adopted in order to serve your purpose. So that's the second thing, that is I would like to know what you did and how you did and what you have found, which is results. So these three things in an abstract are kind of must. However, a standard abstract should include the significance of the study, that might include sometimes the background, the context of your research, which is good to have, but it's highly recommended if you, in one or two sentences, if you can directly drill it out to the research gap, so that your audience at the very beginning is well concerned and well known about the specific research gap that you are going to address in your research. So you can show your significance of the study in many different ways. As I mentioned, you can show the significance, you can talk about the statistics, you can talk about the research problem, but the best way to start with or to attract your audience is the mentioning the research gap or the research question. What really brings you to conduct this research? So these are the first one or two, you can spend first couple of sentences in explaining what are the points, what really motivated you to conduct this research. So this has to come first, so that you can, at the very beginning, you have defined the specific research question and the research gap, so that your audience your audience understand very well what is going to be discussed. And then on the basis of the research gap, then you will be doing the following things. So and at the end of the research, then you can give some outline, what are the potential implications and what are the recommendations that might be that might have out of this research. As I mentioned, the keywords are the most frequently used. So if you do not understand the keywords, what are the keywords basically? Sometimes you get confused. So what I need to put as a keyword, as a crude method of finding the keywords, I often say is, what are the most frequently used words? So this is the crude method to find the keywords if you don't understand what you really need to put. Or in other way, you can think of, that is, what are the key research area, and what are the significant things that you are going to discuss, and you can phrase those words as a keyword. Or you might think, okay, I am going to publish this article, and if I want my desired or the target reader to go through my article, what are the potential keywords that they might use to find my article? So in that, considering that thing, you can select your keywords. So again, you can apply the crude method, which is most frequently used words, or you can apply you can think what are the point of discussion that potential reader might use to search your article. So that should be your keywords. And as I have mentioned these three things, so I would like to go, I would like to show, as I mentioned, that is, I will be showing an example, and all of these examples are from the high impact journals, their impact factor, average impact factor 5 and plus. So from this research article, I'll show you how the researchers have crafted their article and what is the similarity of my presentation and their ground to and their ground in writing their research articles. So here, one of the journals from the composite structures, I would like to show the first similarity in title and keywords. As you say, so they have used keywords 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 keywords. Okay, now let's find. So the very first keyword, we can find it from the title. And the second keyword, again, you can get from the title. Third keyword, you see, fourth, fifth, sixth. You find almost every keyword in the title. So anybody who uses these keywords or more or less some close to this and working in this 3D printer or the continuous fiber reinforced composites, just simply use this keyword, and I'm sure in the search it will show you this article at the very beginning. So this is how we use keywords, and there's a similarity between the keywords and the title of the research article. Next, I would like to show you the abstract. Okay, the background with research problem, how they have started. Over the last few years, three-dimensional printing technology has evolved to incorporate composite materials. So this is kind of, they have showed the significance of the field. So how much the research area is important. And in the following sentence, they have showed the research gap or the research problem. However, using material extrusion technology, it is still difficult to improve the stiffness. So they have talked about the problem of this field. So it's not only background, not only the background that included only the significance of the field, rather the research problem, which I think is a very standard. And next, if we go, then they have discussed what has been the purpose. So sorry, what has been done serves as the purpose. So you can see you will always find some transitional word that will navigate you from the one section to the other section. Then you can easily understand there is okay, I am shifting to the next section. You can see in the following sentence, after mentioning the research problem, then they have stated what is the purpose. They said this study was aimed, they have clearly defined what is the aim of this research. If you move on, then you can see what they have done in order to meet that purpose, the defined purpose. So they have defined the significance of the field, they have defined what is the research problem, and they have defined based on the problem what is the purpose and how the purpose will be served. So that's the method. And they have said to analyze. Again, they are using very good transitional word to navigate its audience from section to section. So which is to analyze the mechanical performance and reveal the failure and deformation mechanism. So they have clearly defined how they are going to do and how. And if I move on, then they have stated their result, that what they have found. They have found the failure mechanism is stable by hybrid. There are some other discussion. The proposed hybrid have substantially greater flexural modulus and so on. So you can see this is, I would consider the complete abstract that included, okay, and also the implications. So this abstract I would consider as standard that included all three basic component things, what has been done, how have been done, and what has been found. And on the top of that, they have also discussed the front matters and the back matters. The front matters are the first matters, which are the background that included the significance of the field along with the research problem, and at the end, what is the implication of this research they have discussed too. So this is kind of abstract, and in abstract it might be sometimes difficult for you to maintain the keywords. For some journals it is mentioned that is you might have to finish an abstract by 150 or 200 or 250 words, then you might have to craft in a very novel way so that you can put all these things together. Or if you need to delete something, then I would ask you to compromise what point. Yeah, sometimes people might tend to discuss too much here in the abstract. So that this is something you have to think and talk your co-workers, your advisors, what really needs to be there and what needs not to be. But for sure, what has been done, how has been done, and what you have found must be there. The second important thing, after this primary thing, the secondary important thing to me is to mention the research problem so that the audience understands the research gap in the literature. Okay. Moving to the next one, introduction. Which, in one word, if someone asks me what is introduction, then I would probably say it's the rationality of your research. Why did you feel to conduct this research? What is the motivation? What really has brought you here? So that's the rationality. The rationality, you can start with a lot of things. Usually we start with the background of the study or the background of the field. Okay, I am going to do research, let's say, in sustainable textiles. So the words are now kind of, sustainability is a word of buzzword. So you can start with the significance of the sustainability. So we have developed so and so. So, but for the we have a lot of things around us, but these things are not often sustainable. So the things that we have adopted to make our life easy, the technology that we have adopted to make our life easy, is becoming the extinct of our life. Meaning that, so we have adopted I am giving a random example. So we have adopted different technology to make our life easy, but that technology is not in process sustainable or are not sustainable. So this is how you can make concern your reader or audience how important the sustainability is. If we cannot sustain for a long, then what is the purpose of making easy sometimes? So we need to think in a big perspective. So basically the significance should be discussed at the beginning. What is the significance shows the importance of the field. Why you need to use some statistics. You can use some different logics. The statistics means you can say, okay, let's say if you can use some climate change issue. So you can say there's a Earth's temperature is gradually increasing. If this continues to grow, then by that time, the researchers has mentioned that by that time our most of the lower part of the world might go underwater. So you have statistics, or this amount of the part of might go under. So this is some eye-boggling thing. At the beginning, you can attract your reader to make them feel how important this field is. And then, what has been done so far? So you have talked about the importance of the field. Now, what have been done so far? So now you'll be taking the literature, talking about the literature. This researcher A has done that, researcher B has done that, researcher C has done that. They have so many issues have been already addressed. So you have talked about all the current state of knowledge. That is the published from the published article, from the published, so different types of public sources. So you have showed this significance, and now you are about what are the efforts that have been made so far in order to address this issue, and based on that, what you are going to do. So you have talked about the current efforts that have been done so far, and within that current effort, what is the specific gap? So that has to be very specified. That is, so you have talked about this, researcher A has done, researcher B did that, and researcher C did that, but nobody has talked about this, or the problem is still not, the problem has not been solved yet. So it needs more research, meaning that you are navigating your reader, and firstly you have educated your reader. That is it's very important. Then you have also given them information. These are the development has been done so far, and then within the development you have very well defined the specific gap that that you are going to potentially minimize through your research. So you will be identifying the gap, and identifying that gap based on the existing body of the knowledge, you will be defining your research objective to fill that gap. So that's a standard introduction should be. The length could be a little bit. So sometimes we distinguish literature review from the introduction, but literature review is a whole part of introduction. Introduction is a rationality. Rationality comes the importance of the field, current development of the field, research question or the research gap, and then your objective to meet that gap. So that's a standard introduction should include. Okay, now methodology. Methodology has some several features. One of the things is I would if I would ask what is the single word to characterize the methodology, I probably would say reproducibility. Methodology means how you conduct the research. If anyone not in my research group wants to regenerate, okay, there's a common fallacy and the common misunderstanding, or sometimes we do not maintain the ethical point of view of the research. That's why we sometimes I must not rather says, since it's going to be the international platform, many of our area in the research zone, there are some area who only show the eye-boggling results, not all the results. So they have tried, let's say they have done 10 times, but they are showing the best 2 results. So that should not be the representative. So methodology is the explanation of your technique, so that anyone who wants to do your research get the same result. So I need to provide that much information and in my methodology so that it can be reproduced. And also, so that's the writing part, by the way. But if I would like to tell more about the methodology by itself, that might not be directly to the writing part, but I think it's an important discussion that I should touch also, which are the relevant analysis. Sometimes there's a growing tendency, if I use some high volume instrumental technique in my methodology, even though they are not relevant to the research, then people think that it might be, people might understand, or the reviewer say, okay, they have done so a lot of things and they have conducted high, very sophisticated characterization. So don't think like that, please. Yeah, it helps. So you should select your characterization techniques based on the relevant of your objective. So the methodology should be designed, or you can say the design of experiment. Again, these are a whole lot of different discussions regarding the design of experiment, regarding the relevant analysis, and also controlling and desired and undesired variables. So that are not the part of the writing discussion though, but I think I just would like to touch these issues shortly. So I have come to, I have seen many of my collaborators, they have conducted some research, and they have done very different characterization. And then I asked them, okay, why did you conduct this characterization? And truly speaking, I did not find any convincing answer convincing answer from them. Let's say one of my friends who has done printing stuff. So in that printing stuff, he performed some DSC analysis of the TGA, some kind of some thermal analysis. Then whenever I asked him a question, what is the purpose of this analysis? Then he was not very confident in explaining the purpose. So it seemed to me that he's probably trying to make his research bulky. But that's not something we expect. We expect you must not compromise with the important, relevant characterization. At the same time, do not include the irrelevant characterization to simply make your paper or the writing bulky. Okay, and now I would like to, from the same research article, from this article, I have looked at their crafting in the introduction, and I have found they have talked about the general background of the study. They have started with, in recent years, three-dimensional printing, continuous fiber, reinforced plastic composite have been rapidly developed in material extrusion, which is known as fused deposition modeling technology. This manufacturing technology is known because of its. They have talked about the advantages of this technology and this importance of this technology. So that's a kind of, although they have not used any statistics, which is even better. So so this is the general background of the study. And after discussing the background study, they have directly drilled out and navigated its audience. So far, several problems have been faced. Now they are talking about what are the problems associated in this field and how these problems have been addressed by the other researchers, which is literature review. So once the researchers has talked about the literature review, then they drilled it very clearly, the research gap, and they say that's hybrid composite. So introduction, I cannot read because it's stop sharing, this pop-up comes, so I cannot read. Probably my audience can read, by the way. Okay, so hybrid composite on different layers is still not mature enough. So meaning that they have mentioned the research gap, or based on the existing body of the knowledge. So they have talked about the several problems and how these problems have been addressed by the other researchers, and based on that, what is still not solved, meaning that this research is not mature enough. So they have defined the research problem or the research gap, and then they have gone to the explain their objectives. So in order to improve, what improve? The problem. In order to improve the comprehensive performance, blah, 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 blah. So then they have explained their research objectives. By the way, there could be, I could show 1,000 tons of examples from different sources, but due to limitation of the time, I wanted to give you some idea or the notion from the published research article, how they have crafted their articles. So there could be many examples. I know there could be even much better paper than this one that even discussed in a very good manner. So I am not bringing a lot of different. These are examples just to show you, yes, how the relevancy of my presentation to the published articles. Okay. And then we can see from the resultant discussion, we see the relevant analysis that introduced relevant analysis and the justification. Okay, so you can understand the relevancy of your methodology, why this characterization or why this particular test is important in order to meet the defined need. So sometimes people just simply say this has been done, but it's not, they have not defined why that particular stuff has been done. Let's say here in this article, the author talked about how the FTIR analysis, why the FTIR analysis was performed, why the print durability test was performed, why the bursting into the air permeability was required to know. And at the end of this article, they talked about the sustainability. So since they have used water, they have also performed the environmental analysis, which is relevant to, and also what is the purpose, it has been defined. So in writing methodology section, we need to provide that sufficient detailed, in concise, not I cannot include everything. It's not possible. And then it will be by itself a very bulky section. No, I need to provide all the sufficient information concisely, so that anyone who wants to get this research, who wants to get the result out of doing the same thing, they can get my result. If they cannot get, then my result is not reproducible, and there is no application of this research. Because if you want to follow my way but you are not reaching the goal, then there is no purpose to follow my ways. Okay. And also mention the statistics. So that shows the reproducibility. That is, if you do one thing and that one single result you report, that's not fair, because then it might not be reproducible. You might get that result out of chance. So getting something and reporting something out of chance is not research. It has to be reproducible. So you will show some level of reproducibility with some variability. Okay, if you follow these ways, you will get this result more or less like this. So that's why we say we conduct several repetitive tests under the same condition. So that's why I say there's maintaining the same condition or controlling desired or undesired variabilities. So you might be interested to look at the effect of some variables, or you might have to remove the effect of some undesired variables. So that's why we would like to perform all the tests in the same environmental condition. And also here it mentioned there has been 5 specimens for each test. So they have reproduced for 5 times, and each of these 5 specimen has to have the same characteristics. Otherwise, if they have a different characteristics, then you might get a different result. So, and which is not your purpose. Your purpose was to get the same result if you repeat 1,000 times. So if they have some inherent variability, then that variability might cause the different results, so which you do not want. So that's why all of the specimen needs to have the same characteristics. And also you will perform the test in a given an environmental condition, and also you need to indicate how many specimens or how many reproduction you have done, so that your reader or your reviewer can understand, yes, these results are reproducible. And then I am going to discuss about the result and discussion section. Sometimes this is in case of result and discussion, there are 3 levels. The first level, simply interpretation of the result, which is the core level. We just simply explain what we have found out of the graph, and simply explaining that not sufficient, and that never can attract a good journal. So anyone can read from the more or less, those who are the people of this field, anyone can read from the graph. And interpreting the graph is not sufficient to be eligible for a high impact journal. At least you need to go to the next point, which is discuss on the science of the result. Why you have interpreted the result? Why is this result? What is the reason behind this result? Why you have found this much high performance for this material? Why you have not found low performance from this material, even though it sometimes happen before conducting a certain test? You might expect that might be your hypothesis, that is, yeah, probably this sample might show a better performance, but practically that doesn't. Then you yourself think, why it didn't happen? So find the reason, find the justification, find the science behind the result. Unless you can explain the science behind the result, you cannot convince yourself. Then how you will convince your potential reader or potential reviewers? So that's why you have to interpret the result duly. Not only interpretation, you have to explain the science behind the result. Why different samples show different performance? What is the underlying reason behind it? What are the playing factors behind these different results? Even though you have the same environmental condition, from the same material, from the same thing, what is playing the role to the different results? Not only that, a good paper or a very high impact paper, not only your science might be wrong, your explanation might not be acceptable. The way that you have explained, I have come to know many research articles since I have been working as a reviewer for many journals, over 30 or 30 journals. So in reviewing these journals, I have seen just they simply interpret the result, or they explain the results, meaning that discuss the results, the science behind the result, which is not acceptable. Or the way they have found a completely different thing that nobody can experience, but that might be true. So they have to support their discussion. But how? It is the best way to support a discussion by the established theory or established model or established law or the findings with other researchers. Sometimes we say, okay, so this is, we can see from the graph, the reason behind this behavior might be this, which can be explained by that theory. So this is the tertiary level, and mainly this is the knowledge that you are going to contribute through your research. So the purpose of publishing research article is to generate knowledge, right? So if it is the purpose of is to generate the knowledge, then this is the part where you are generating knowledge for the scientific community. So if you cannot explain the science behind the result, the phenomena behind the science behind the phenomena, or you cannot, if you cannot support, I wish I could show some example. I have an example, but I have to find it out. I have not included it in my presentation. Okay. I am not the technical person in that field. There is a research article based on the quantum mechanics, which is a kind of 𝗘𝗃𝗃 something like that. So in that particular, is still a field of unsolved issue in the science, by the way. So that issue has been addressed by Nobel laureate Einstein, and then he's basically denying the science of a fact, while the other scientist Niels Bohr, who supported that result. So basically, meaning that sometimes it happens, you are explaining the science behind the result, but reviewer do not accept, or you show the logic. this might be the reasons your PIs or your advisor do not accept. So that's why you need to show the support of your claim. Show the support of your claim through established theory, model, law, and something. Or if you cannot do, then you can bring the testimony. That is support from the other researchers. What other researchers have found in this relevant issue. So that's the result, and discussion should be crafted. And finally, conclusion, which is kind of result and implication focused. While in case of abstract, people might get confused with the abstract and the conclusion. In abstract, we mention the key, all the key important things related to the manuscript. But in the conclusion, that might not be. We simply can directly go to the result and explain the implication of our research. And sometimes based on the our experience, we can explain the limitation, and based on the limitation, what could be the future research direction that can also be explained. And finally, reference. Reference is, okay, sometimes again, it's a whole lot of different discussion, how we can avoid plagiarism stuff, how we can paraphrase different things, what I need to refer, what I need not to, how I can refer. So that's a whole lot of different discussion. In a one word, anything that you do not, that's not your property, that's not your work, or anything, let's say, if you say a reactive dye, there are some very well-established things that you don't have to kind of, let's say, the sky is blue. It does not need any reference. But if you would like to say, something, let's say, the direct dye is an anionic dye that has a very good attraction to the certain types of fibers. So let's say this statement, or basic dye is a cationic dye which have a good attraction to the jute fiber for this reason. So that's something somebody told, and from that discussion you come to know this is the fact about the basic dyes. So that's the thing that I wanted to say. Any knowledge which is not commonly known, and any knowledge which is not your personal property, or which is something you have not derived, must be cited duly. So that's the reference. And of course, not copy and paste, even though you cite it, but you put just copy and paste. Again, I said it's a whole lot of different discussion, how you can paraphrase, how you can use code and uncode. That's a different thing. But anything that has not come from you must be cited. Examples. You can see they have talked about the publication. They have talked about the let's say they have found something. They said, but in our system, the stronger dielectric laws lead to a Orsen reflection. You don't have to be technical, by the way. You just look at the writing, which is different from most reports. You see, they have found something which is different from the most report. So meaning that they have found something that has not been found by others. Now he's trying to, so there is already a contradiction between the findings. They have finding some which is not supported by the other, which the researchers have acknowledged. And in the following sentence, they have said the related physical mechanism is still not very clear, but they have confessed their limitation. However, they have continued based on some previous report. So some report that they are not in there are some report that do not support their result, but there are some reports too that support their results. Which some previous report about the dielectric constant low frequency, the enrichment in the dielectric constant can be explained according to the percolation theory. You see, So they have not now not talking about. So this is how they have brought a logic which is opposed to their finding, and then he is refuting that logic by a theory. So let's say I have found this, but researcher X and Y have found a different thing. So now, so I have already put in a debate. Okay, so which is going to be correct? Now I am supporting my result from a theory, from established theory. So meaning that I am trying to prove probably my approach might be correct. So that's the thing. Okay, my results can be explained from my phenomena can be explained by this theory. So that's the way. And again, you see another possible reason. They have continued to explain the reason behind their findings. Another possible reason is that the high concentration of this and that because of the occurrence of the significant skin effect, which is the surface of the radiation microwaves. Citations. So they have again explained the second level of explanation and supported their explanation with the published article. Okay, second example. So I said the finding and discussion supported by theory, law, and findings of others. That's what I wanted to say. In one of my papers, I say, however, I use the classical laminate theory to explain certain phenomena. Or here I say, generally, the phenomena of the high aberration at the exit, then at the entrance, can be described by this law. This is how you can explain your observation. This is how you can support your observation by the published theory, law, or findings from others. So here again, basically, so you can mention interpret your result. You can explain your science. You can interpret your result. You can share your findings. You can share the findings of others, and if they are similar, then you can use the other published articles as your support. If you do find variation in the findings, then you can talk about the other findings that are opposite to your finding. Then you can support which phenomena might be correct. And sometimes it might happen that you cannot explain. Then you can simply say the future research can be conducted to explain this phenomena, or will be going to conduct this particular issue in our subsequent research. That experimental design might be different. Some reviewer might say, okay, why are you not conducting that issue in this same research? It might happen that in order to address that particular issue, that might go beyond the scope of the current research. So that's why that needs a different research. So if you cannot explain something, then you can put it and you can use it as a future research direction. Finally, I must mention, besides the subject matter of each of the content mentioned, I mentioned each of the research content of a research article and what are the subject matter that must be included in a certain content. But beyond this thing, you must be very careful about the English uses, which is grammar and language. Of course, consistency. I have found these inconsistency issues so much, is kind of visually disturbing. What is the consistency? One of the examples of consistency, let's say, you defined, if I go this article, okay, they have defined continuous fiber reinforced plastic, let's say. Sometimes they have used a different terminology to define it. Here they have used glass fibers, GFs. Sometimes they might use simply GF. Sometimes, so meaning that they do not, so this is a very normal example of the inconsistency. Inconsistency may be for the different types of heading. let's say for level 1 heading, you have used one convention. For the same level of heading, you have used a different convention in terms of font size, in terms of formatting, anything, any inconsistency. Please retake out all the inconsistencies. And also there must be cohesion and coherence. The flow of information must be logical. So there must be a logical flow of information, and also you must be very careful in consistency, and also look at the grammar and language. I think that's all for today. I would appreciate your following question, please. Thank you. If the audience have any question, I would highly appreciate.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan Fajil Kabir, for your nice presentation. You have covered all aspects of writing mechanics of high-impact research article to be submitted, accepted, and finally published in an impactful research journal. Hopefully, research students will be very benefited from your valuable presentation. We have found a question. Have you found any question, sir? Sabir Hossain, sir? Have you found any?
There is no relevant question. They are just appreciation.
Okay. MD Shariful Islam, he said that very good, highly appreciate the initiative of BRBD. Thank you, Mr. Shariful Islam. Mr. and Dr. Hossain Kutubi, he said, excellent initiative. I am greatly grateful for your contributions. Thank you, Kutubi. Sadia Karimun, she said, very good presentation. Thank you, Sadia Karimun.
Yeah, that's all.
A big announcement is waiting for the audience. We can utter the next program, next episode, which will be arranged by BRBD. Yes, meeting with top researcher. This program will be held on 26th November 2022 at 7 p.m. Professor Dr. Muhammad Anwar Hossain from Bangladesh Agricultural University will be present as an honorable guest of the session. The audience, you all are most welcome to the first episode on 26th November. The episode is Meeting with Top Researcher, organized by BRBD.com. Is it another one? Yeah, quality research paper writing publication. I study the video tutorial on every Friday at 10 a.m. Okay. So we can conclude our today's webinar. Thank you, guest of honor, today's program, MD Sabir Hossain sir, for your honest devotion, and provide thanks to our keynote speaker, Dr. Fijul Kabir, for your kind presence in this webinar. We can thank our audience who has attended today's webinar and who has commented in the comment box. We can appreciate your all comments and to thank you again for your nice presence today's webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.